In the shadowed halls of one of the world's greatest museums, where ancient secrets whispered from glass cases, Dr. Sarah Mitchell stared at her phone, her heart pounding like a war drum. The message from her brother glowed accusingly, a casual dismissal that hid years of buried resentment. Little did he know, his fiancée, a rising political star, was about to step into Sarah's domain, unraveling a web of lies and forcing a confrontation that could shatter their family forever. As the clock ticked toward an inevitable revelation, Sarah wondered, would the truth set her free, or bury her deeper in the silence she'd endured for so long? Sarah's office on the third floor of the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History offered a commanding view of the National Mall, the grass stretching like a green ribbon toward the imposing dome of the Capitol building. It was there, amid stacks of exhibition proposals and the faint hum of her computer, that the text message pierced her concentration. December 17th, 2:14 p.m. She was deep into reviewing the budget for the upcoming climate change exhibit, her pen hovering over figures that represented millions in grants and donor funds. The notification buzzed insistently. From Derek. Hey Sarah, about New Year's Eve. Rebecca and I are keeping it intimate this year, just her political circle. You get it, right? She set the pen down, her fingers trembling slightly as she reread the words. Derek, her brother, 2 years her junior, had always been blunt, but this cut deeper, like a scalpel slicing through old scars. She tapped out a response, her mind racing through memories of their uneven sibling bond. I thought you mentioned it was going to be a grand affair. His reply came swiftly. It is grand, but Rebecca's a congresswoman now. Colleagues, reps, a senator, big donors. She has to project the right image. You handle museum gift shop stuff or whatever. It's not the same caliber. The words stung, a familiar poison. Sarah leaned back in her leather chair, gazing out at the mall where tourists bundled against the winter chill. The same Capitol where Derek's fiancée, Congresswoman Rebecca Chin, now wielded influence. Sarah's role? Executive director of this iconic institution, overseeing 1,200 staff, a $180 million budget, and international boards on cultural preservation. But to Derek, it was museum stuff. He'd never probed deeper, never asked about her PhD from Yale, her keynote speeches, or her testimonies before Congress. 4 years in this position, and he'd reduced it to a quaint hobby. She fired back. Derek, don't take it that way. We'll grab dinner next month, just family. Rebecca wants to connect with you more, but this party's crucial for her trajectory. Understand? No reply from her. A meeting with the Smithsonian secretary loomed in 20 minutes. She had a keynote to polish for the American Alliance of Museums conference in February, 17 curators awaiting her nods on proposals. No time to dissect Derek's ignorance. Jennifer, her assistant of 3 years, knocked softly and poked her head in. Dr. Mitchell, the secretary's ready. Thanks, Jen. Sarah gathered her tablet, the summit agenda loaded. As she stood, Jennifer's brow furrowed. Everything all right? You seem off. Family drama, Sarah muttered, forcing a tight smile. Jennifer nodded knowingly. She'd screened enough of Derek's calls to grasp the undercurrents. The meeting unfolded smoothly. The International Museum Directors Summit in January would draw 50 global leaders to D.C., with Sarah's museum as host. The State Department's keen on this, Secretary Williams said, reclining in his ornate chair. Soft diplomacy at its finest. Louvre, British Museum, Hermitage, Taiwan's National Palace Museum, all converging here. Then, the curveball. Congresswoman Chin's office inquired about the opening reception. She chairs the House Subcommittee on Arts and Culture, eager to mingle with delegates on exchange programs. Sarah's pulse quickened. Rebecca. I see, she said evenly. She's engaged to my brother. Small world. Williams chuckled. Indeed. Mark January 14th. You'll deliver remarks and introduce the keynote. Her mind whirled as she left. 3 weeks away. She hadn't mentioned the summit to Derek. A petty spark ignited. Let it play out organically. But exhaustion dominated. Tired of justifying her worth to a family that never listened. Their parents had always championed Derek, the charismatic golden boy, Georgetown law grad, now at a top D.C. firm. Sarah's path in museum studies and cultural anthropology? Mom had sighed. At least it'll be peaceful. As if steering a global powerhouse was akin to dusting shelves. Derek proposed to Rebecca on her election night. She'd flipped a red district by 18 points, a 36-year-old phenom tipped for stardom. Sarah met her once at an October dinner. Derek's intro. My sister Sarah works at the Natural History Museum. Oh, lovely, Rebecca had said, distracted by a campaign call. Museums matter so much. End of exchange. New Year's Eve passed quietly for Sarah at Dr. Patricia Okoye's gathering. The chief curator's soirees were D.C. museum lore, scholarly chats with artists and leaders, far richer than Derek's schmooze fest. On January 3rd, Jennifer entered with an odd look. Dr. Mitchell, call from Congresswoman Chin's office. They want a pre-summit tour, private, with you leading. Sarah glanced up. Me, personally? Her chief of staff emphasized high-level ops and cultural policy. January 13th, 10 a.m. Book it. Jennifer paused. Mention the family tie? No. If it arises, it will. The following days blurred into summit prep, wrangling egos from 50 directors. Louvre's security demands, British Museum's private secretary meet, Chinese delegations' diets. Sarah thrived in this, navigating cultural diplomacy's intricacies, blending heritage with progress. January 10th, Derek called. Sarah, Rebecca's touring your museum next week. Yes, the 13th. Look, she doesn't realize your role there. Thinks you're a coordinator, maybe gift shop. Don't make it awkward. She's stressed about the summit VIPs. Awkward how? Sarah's voice iced over. You know, keep it pro, no family vibes. Derek, do you even know what I do here? Museum work. Gotta run. Don't weird it out. Click. Sarah pulled up the museum site. Her bio glared back. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, Executive Director, Yale PhD, ex-Met Deputy, ICOM Board, author, 2019 National Medal of Arts recipient. Professional photo, CV link. Derek hadn't glanced in 4 years. January 13th dawned crisp and biting. Sarah dressed sharply, charcoal suit, bun, understated elegance befitting her stature. At 9:45, Jennifer updated. Her motorcade's here, security escorting, chief of staff, aides, press for photos. Of course, optics for Rebecca's subcommittee. At 9:58, the call. Congresswoman's in the lobby. The elevator descended to the empty main hall, public opening in an hour. Rebecca, in navy attire, orchestrated photo spots with her liaison. Her chief of staff spotted Sarah first. Dr. Mitchell, Tom Bradford, thanks for this. Pleasure. Sarah turned. Congresswoman Chin, welcome. I'm Dr. Sarah Mitchell, Executive Director. Rebecca's smile faltered mid-greeting. Mitchell. Sarah Mitchell? Yes. As in Derek's sister? Yes. The air thickened, a palpable hush. Tom's confusion flickered, aides shifted. Rebecca's poise cracked, embarrassment, dawning horror. I didn't know. Derek said you worked at a museum. He didn't specify I run it, Sarah said softly. No, he wouldn't. Tom interjected smoothly. Shall we proceed? 2 hours allocated. Rebecca nodded, still dazed. Sarah led on, tension coiling like a spring. The tour began in the grand main hall, where dinosaur skeletons loomed like silent guardians under the vaulted ceiling. Sarah's voice echoed softly as she described the museum's dual mission: public wonder and rigorous scientific inquiry. We house over 145 million specimens and artifacts, she explained, gesturing toward the towering elephant in the rotunda. From deep-sea vents to ancient human migrations, every piece tells a story backed by research. Rebecca walked beside her, notebook in hand, asking sharp, policy-oriented questions. Yet her composure felt brittle, like thin ice over deep water. Every so often, her gaze flicked to Sarah, searching, reassessing. Tom Bradford trailed close, jotting notes. The aides and press liaison hovered, capturing discreet photos near the international flags. In the ocean hall, beneath the massive model of a North Atlantic right whale suspended overhead, Sarah paused. The blue lighting cast ethereal shadows across their faces. This isn't just display, she said quietly. Our marine biologists track endangered species, publish in top journals, and advise federal agencies on conservation. We've shaped legislation on ocean plastics and habitat protection. Rebecca's eyes narrowed slightly. You advise Congress directly? 3 testimonies in the last 2 years alone. Appropriations Committee mostly. Funding for cultural diplomacy, scientific research, environmental monitoring. Sarah met her gaze steadily. As Dr. Mitchell, Executive Director, not as anyone's sister. Rebecca flinched, a tiny involuntary movement. Tom made another note, his expression shifting from polite interest to calculation. Partnership potential, Sarah could almost hear him thinking. They moved deeper, anthropology collections, where glass cases held millennia of human ingenuity, pottery from Mesopotamia, masks from West Africa, tools from early Homo sapiens sites. Sarah spoke of repatriation efforts, the ethical reckonings museums worldwide faced over colonial-era acquisitions. The summit tomorrow addresses exactly this: decolonization frameworks, collaborative stewardship. 50 directors from 32 countries, all converging to align on these challenges. Rebecca stopped beneath a case of Indigenous Australian artifacts. And you're coordinating the entire event? Host director, opening remarks, panel moderation, logistics from security to translation. Sarah's tone remained even, but inside a quiet storm brewed. This was the life she'd built brick by brick, while her family painted it as background scenery. The butterfly pavilion came next, vibrant wings fluttering behind glass. Then the Hall of Fossils, where a Tyrannosaurus rex skull stared down with empty sockets. Sarah detailed ongoing digs, climate modeling from paleoclimate data, public programs reaching millions. Rebecca's questions grew fewer, her silence grew heavier. By the time they reached Sarah's office suite, the air felt charged, electric with unspoken weight. The space overlooked the mall, sunlight slanting across polished wood and shelves of anthropology volumes. A framed National Medal of Arts hung beside her desk, the president's signature visible even from the doorway. A small ammonite fossil rested beside her keyboard, a gift from her Yale mentor. Rebecca stared at the view, then at the medal, then at Sarah. "This is where you work," she murmured, almost to herself. "Most days. The rest are meetings on the Hill, donor events, field station visits, Kenya, Peru, Mongolia." Sarah gestured to the chair. "Please, sit if you'd like." Jennifer knocked, entering with a tablet. "Dr. Mitchell, the secretary needs your call on the French delegation's protocol adjustment. Also, the Louvre director requested a pre-summit briefing this afternoon." 20 minutes, Jen. Tell them I'll dial in." Jennifer left. Rebecca's face had paled further. "The Louvre director," she repeated slowly. "You're on first-name terms with the Louvre." "Among others. British Museum, Hermitage, Prado. It's routine for this role." Silence stretched, thick and uncomfortable. Tom cleared his throat. "Congresswoman, perhaps we should review tomorrow's reception protocol. Dr. Mitchell would be the ideal source." Rebecca cut in, voice tight. "Since she's organizing everything, since she testifies before Congress, runs a $180 million institution with 1,200 employees, advises on national policy, and has a presidential medal on her wall." She turned to Sarah, eyes glistening. "Could we speak alone? Just a moment." Tom ushered the aides out. The door clicked shut. Rebecca sank into the chair, shoulders slumping. "Derek told me you worked in the gift shop, or maybe events coordination, something entry level." Her voice cracked. "He said you were sweet, content with a quiet life, that you'd bounced between jobs, never really committed to a career." Sarah felt the old ache flare, but she kept her face calm. "He's never asked for details. Every conversation circles back to his cases, his promotions." "But I believed him." Rebecca pressed her palms to her eyes. "I took his word. We're getting married. I should have researched my future sister-in-law. I'm mortified." "You had no reason to doubt him." "I had every reason. I'm a congresswoman. I vet everything." She stood, pacing to the window. "He uninvited you from New Year's because you weren't the right level for my colleagues. Half that room works appropriations or arts funding. Senator Williams was there. She's been chasing a Smithsonian meeting for months. You could have bridged that. And I let him dismiss you." Sarah spoke softly. "I had other plans. A curators gathering. Better conversations, honestly." Rebecca turned, horrified. "What must you think of me?" "I think you're engaged to my brother. You trusted his version of me. That's understandable." "It's not." Anger sharpened her tone, not at Sarah, but at the man waiting somewhere outside this truth. "He called you flaky, said you seemed happy enough in a low-key role. But this," she gestured at the office, the medal, the view. "This is extraordinary." Sarah exhaled. "Derek built a story where I'm less so he could feel more. I stopped correcting it. It was exhausting." Rebecca sat again, elbows on knees. "I called him during the tour break. asked point blank what his sister does. He said, administrative role, maybe events. Unsure. I asked if he knew about Yale, the PhD. Some anthropology thing, he said. Executive director? Director of what? Like a department head. The words landed like stones. Sarah's throat tightened. I told him the wedding is postponed. Rebecca's jaw set. I can't marry someone who doesn't see his own sister, who diminishes brilliant women because they don't match his idea of success. I fight for equality publicly. I won't live a contradiction privately. You don't have to. Yes, I do. Rebecca stood. I'm sorry for wasting your time. The tour was eye-opening. This place is fortunate to have you. At the door, she paused. Tomorrow's reception. I'll introduce you to Senator Williams, Representative Torres, anyone who needs to know your work, if that's all right. It is. And I hope Derek wakes up. You deserve a brother who sees you. She left, the door closing with a soft finality. Sarah stood motionless, hands shaking now that the performance was over. Years of silent achievement, invisible to those closest. The confrontation had cracked something open, painful, but perhaps necessary. The afternoon dissolved into summit logistics, a Japanese delegate's sudden illness requiring virtual setup, British director's panel swap, caterer headcount panic. At 7 p.m., Jennifer appeared again. Your brother's in the lobby, insists on seeing you. Sarah's stomach nodded. I'm in meetings. He says he'll wait. A long sigh. Send him up. Derek arrived disheveled, tie askew, hair mussed from running fingers through it. He shut the door hard. Sarah, what the hell? Rebecca called. Postpone the wedding. Said it's because of you. Because of you, Sarah corrected, voice steady. Because you don't know my life. That's insane! I know you work here. You're happy. Derek, I'm the executive director. I run this museum. Budget bigger than most colleges. Staff of over 1,000. International cultural policy. Congressional testimony. National Medal of Arts. From the president. He stared, blank. Then his eyes tracked the office. The medal, the view, the authority in every detail. The medal. 2 years ago. I thought it was some staff thing, a group award. I invited you. You didn't come. I didn't know. He sank into the chair Rebecca had vacated. You never said you were in charge. I told you when I was appointed. You said, cool, so you're like a manager now. Then changed the subject to your big case. Derek rubbed his face. I don't remember. That's the issue. Silence fell, heavy as the night outside. The Washington Monument glowed against the dark. Rebecca said I've been condescending, that I treat you like you're less. His voice cracked. She's right. You're smarter than me. Always were. Yale, PhD, all this. I needed you smaller, safer, so my own path felt big. Sarah watched him, surprise mingling with old hurt. I chose what I love, not to threaten you. I know. And you built something huge. I shrank it instead of celebrating. He looked up, eyes raw. She's right to pause. I'm not ready for marriage if I can't see my sister. You could learn, Sarah said quietly. Ask questions. Visit. Meet my world. Would you even want that, after everything? She considered the risk, the years of dismissal, the fragile hope. But he was here, broken open. Yes, if it's real. Okay, he stood. Tell me about tomorrow, this summit thing. So she did. Cultural diplomacy's fragile bridges, panels on repatriation and climate, the weight of hosting global leaders. He listened, really listened, asking thoughtful follow-ups. Can I come? To the reception? Invitation only. Rebecca could sponsor you, if she's still speaking to you. I want to see you there, in your element. What I've missed. I'll check protocol. He left, shoulders straighter somehow. Sarah sat long after, emails blurring. The wound was still tender, but something new flickered. Possibility. The International Museum Directors Summit reception unfolded in the National Gallery of Art's West Building Rotunda, a breathtaking space of marble columns, golden light, and the quiet grandeur of centuries-old masterpieces. 200 guests moved through the crowd like pieces on a diplomatic chessboard, directors in tailored suits, cultural ministers with subtle lapel pins, ambassadors exchanging cards, congressional figures scanning for alliances. The air carried notes of expensive perfume, fresh flowers, and the low murmur of languages blending into a symphony of soft power. Sarah arrived early, her midnight blue floor-length gown catching the light like deep ocean water. She had chosen it deliberately, elegant yet commanding, a visual echo of the authority she carried every day. Tonight, she was both host and bridge builder, welcoming delegations, steering conversations, ensuring the invisible threads of collaboration tightened rather than frayed. The French arrived first. Martin Laurent, director of the Louvre, greeted her with double cheek kisses and genuine warmth. Sarah, ma chère, the museum is magnificent. This summit already feels like a success. They spoke briefly of their joint exhibition 3 years prior, laughing over shared memories of late-night curation debates in Paris. One by one, the others filtered in. The British Museum's measured gravitas, the Hermitage's quiet intensity, the National Museum of China's precise courtesy, Japan's thoughtful restraint, Germany's efficiency, Brazil's vibrant energy, South Africa's resilient pride. Each handshake carried weight, preservers of humanity's shared story, gathered under her coordination. At 7 sharp, Rebecca entered on Derek's arm. Her red dress struck a perfect balance, bold without overpowering, professional yet striking. Derek, in a crisp tuxedo, looked visibly nervous, shoulders tight, eyes darting. They approached during a brief lull between greetings. "Dr. Mitchell?" Rebecca said formally, then softened into a real smile. "You look stunning." "Thank you, Congresswoman. You both do as well." Derek stood frozen for a beat, staring at Sarah as though seeing her for the first time in high definition. "Sarah, I read it. Everything. Your bio, the publications, the Met transition articles, the medal ceremony coverage. 4 hours straight. And His voice caught. "I'm an idiot. A complete idiot. All this time I thought I was the one who mattered, the one making real contributions. But you've been shaping how the world understands itself while I've been billing hours for contracts nobody will remember in 10 years. Sarah felt something loosen in her chest. "Derek, your work has value too." "Does it?" He gestured toward the room, the directors laughing, the ambassadors nodding, the weight of history pressing down gently from the domed ceiling. "These people are here because of you. They respect you. You lead them." Before she could answer, Secretary Williams approached. "Dr. Mitchell, we're ready for your remarks." She nodded. "Enjoy the evening. We'll talk later." She walked to the small stage, microphone waiting. 200 faces turned toward her, expectant, curious, respectful. She drew a slow breath and began. "Good evening, and welcome to the opening reception of the International Museum Directors Summit. I am Dr. Sarah Mitchell, Executive Director of the Smithsonian National Museum of Natural History. It is my profound honor to welcome you to Washington, D.C. Her voice carried clear and steady across the rotunda. For 8 minutes, she spoke of museums as living bridges, linking past to future, nation to nation, crisis to solution. She touched on repatriation's moral urgency, digital access's democratic promise, climate change's existential call for shared knowledge. She introduced the keynote speaker, the Director General of UNESCO, with grace and precision, then stepped aside to sustained applause. The next 2 hours became a whirlwind of purposeful motion. She introduced the Japanese delegation to American philanthropists interested in joint conservation projects. She connected the British Museum director with key congressional staffers eyeing increased cultural funding. She facilitated a delicate, hopeful conversation between Russian and Ukrainian directors about a shared traveling exhibition. 2 professionals finding common ground amid geopolitical storms. At one point, she caught sight of Rebecca guiding Derek toward Senator Williams. Derek listened intently, asking questions. Real ones, not performative. He looked overwhelmed but present, absorbing rather than performing. Near the evening's close, Martin Loron found her again near a quiet alcove. "Sarah, the European directors have been talking. We'd like to propose making the summit a rotating annual event, and we want you to chair the permanent organizing committee." The offer landed like a quiet thunderclap. Chairing would mean multi-year global coordination, leadership across 6 continents, becoming the central figure in international museum collaboration. "I'd be honored," she said, the words steady despite the rush of pride. As the crowd thinned, Derek and Rebecca waited in the grand lobby. Marble gleamed under low lights, guards moved silently in the distance. "That was incredible," Derek said the moment she approached. "Watching you command that room, the way everyone looked to you, listened to you, I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen you like that." "That's because you never looked." "I know, but I'm looking now." He swallowed. "Can we start over? Really? Can I learn who you are? Not the version I invented, but the real one?" Sarah studied him. Years of accumulated hurt layered like sediment in her mind. Yet here he stood, vulnerable, having read her entire professional life in one sitting, showing up despite the awkwardness. "We can try," she said, "but it has to be genuine. You have to care, not just feel guilty tonight." "I care. I promise I care." Rebecca watched with quiet approval. "I should leave you two to talk, but Sarah, call me next week. I'd like to discuss cultural funding legislation. Your insight would be invaluable." "I'd like that." Rebecca left, heels echoing softly. Derek and Sarah sat on a bench beneath the Monet water lilies, the colors muted in the dim light. "Tell me about your work," he said. "For real. I want to understand." So she told him about the tightrope of education versus spectacle, the ethical minefield of repatriation, the thrill of new discoveries in forgotten collections, the quiet joy of a child's wonder before a dinosaur. He asked good questions, thoughtful, curious ones. For the first time, the conversation flowed both ways. At midnight, they walked to the underground garage. "I'm going to fix this," he said. "Not just with you, with Rebecca too. I want to be someone worthy of both of you." "You don't have to be perfect. Just present." "Then I'll be present, starting now." He hugged her, awkward at first, then real. They hadn't embraced in years. Over the following month, Derek proved his words. He visited the museum 3 times, different curators, different wings, asking questions that showed he was listening. He attended one of her public lectures on cultural preservation, sitting in the back row taking notes. He read her book on 21st century heritage protection cover to cover, then emailed her detailed, respectful questions about specific chapters. He also turned inward. He started therapy to unpack why he'd needed to diminish her. He had difficult conversations with their parents about favoritism and blind spots. Rebecca agreed to restart their relationship, slowly. 1 dinner a week, no more. She set clear boundaries. Her career mattered equally, partnership demanded mutual respect, dismissal would not be tolerated. And Derek listened. He changed. Not perfectly, not overnight, but steadily, authentically. 3 months after the summit, on a quiet Saturday afternoon, Derek called. "Sarah, I just spoke with Mom. Really spoke. I told her everything. The summit, UNESCO's interest in you chairing next year, the scale of what you do, how we all assumed and never asked." "How did she take it?" "She was stunned. Then she cried, said she had no idea. I told her that was the problem. We never asked. She wants your number again, like starting fresh." Sarah felt a long-held tension ease, just a fraction. "She has it, but tell her to call. I'll answer." "I will. And Sarah, thank you for not giving up on me, for believing I could be better." "You're my brother. That's what family should do." After the call, Sarah stood at her apartment window, DC's skyline glittering below. The museums stood sentinel across the city, quiet guardians of memory, story, truth. She had built a life of meaning, achievement stacked upon achievement. Yet beneath it all, the simplest longing had persisted: to be seen. Finally, slowly, her family had begun to look. It wasn't a cinematic ending, no grand apologies from the rooftops, no instant perfection. It was quieter, messier, real. And real was enough.